Welcome to Grow and Be, an exploration of healing experiences, healing tools, personal growth, and learning to love yourself along the way. Today, as a guest is a dear friend, Laura. She has helped me also through my healing journey, a lot of people along the way. She has had her own insane past of exploring everything under the sun to find out what works, as she has struggled her way through life to get to the other side. And it has been cool to see you go through that, and even cooler to see that you take that experience and that energy and use it to help transform people's lives. So, Laura, welcome.
Thank you. I can't cry today, so we're starting off on a
We're,
great foot. I'm
are we,
getting
are we, we're out of tears for the day.
no, I can't cry on this podcast.
Oh,
But that was
nah. If it happens, it happens.
thank you.
Yeah. So, Laura, I've talked a little bit of an intro for it, but I'd like you to tell me about yourself and what you do.
I am a licensed massage therapist,
Mm-hmm.
trauma informed. Um, I'm an ex-social worker, so I bring a lot of that to my work, my current work. And when I'm working with people, a lot of the time I'm focusing on helping them to heal and navigate their trauma
Mm-hmm.
along with body work.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm focusing on helping to heal their body and their mind and their soul and get everything reconnected and have it be a well-rounded experience, not just the physical body where they're feeling ailments, because sometimes that's not where the problem lies.
That, and I have had that exact experience with you. Uh, when you're talking body work, are we talking primarily massage, or are there any other specific types of modalities you like to focus on just with that? Because I've seen you do the whole process upon it, but I know it's evolved much over the years.
Yeah, it started out just as massage therapy. Um, the Swedish, the deep tissue modality, the Lomi Lomi modality. You can get trained in 120 different modalities. So I kind of draw from my own training, which I think is at like 39 modalities at this point. So
Oof.
um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's interesting, but it I work by what I'm feeling and what your body's telling me. So if it needs X modality used, I just kind
Mm-hmm.
of it's already in there. I just pull from it and we go from there. But when I'm working with trauma and healing trauma, it's a lot of somatic work mixed in with the body
Mm-hmm.
work. So I'm giving you a massage and I'm working on your body. I'm listening to what your body's telling me. I'm listening to whatever might be coming up as far as your own trauma. If I'm getting any signs from the ether,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I get intuitive hits of information and bringing that to the surface for people, especially when they're in their own trauma and navigating it. There might be something that I know that they don't tell me, and then I have to just kind of inquire and say, is this something that you want to work with today?
So when you're experiencing these things, you just have like this instinct of something that's going on behind the scenes. You're just picking something up, and you're like, "Let's dive into this. Do you want to talk about this thing?" Is that how I'm hearing this?
At times, yes. Especially with you, like that's all
Yep.
the time. But
Yep.
um, something just won't feel right in the body, and
Mm-hmm.
it'll just feel like it's not very smooth muscle. But I'll have like a gut feeling about it, and I kind of shuffle around the ether a little, and I'm like, okay, well, what is this? And sometimes I'll know exactly what it is. They were in a car accident 10 years ago, and that's where their body's holding it. Or
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say, what's going on here? What is your body telling you right now? And then they'll be like, oh yeah, that was on my mind. Or they will think of something and I will have the same thought and I will say, are you thinking about this right now, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting this, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
But I do have the conversation beforehand with people and say, if we are going to be doing somatic work, like expect XYZ to possibly happen, so that they're not just out of the blue laying on the table and I'm talking about whatever intuitive hit I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
I like to
Yeah.
tell people first what they're walking into.
Yes. And I know you've had to tailor that experience to all sorts of different people, because you take everyone from just our traditional body work all the way through full on spiritual experiences that align with them personally, not bringing your own into that over like commanding and bringing that upon them. But hey, if you have XYZ tradition, I know you draw upon that. And that's awesome to see. Now, I have had, of course, cool experiences with you, especially when it comes to the body work and the type of mind connection that you're talking about. I have done work with Laura and these are some of the weirdest things where I have used assisted with uh, various healing substances along the way. And I've had things of like a vision of a temple in my mind. And she's like, "Do you see a temple?" And I'm like, "There is no way. There is absolutely no way you are supposed to know that. I have said nothing, I have shown nothing, and you still have it. And it is a gift. And that is amazing to see." Now, I do want to draw back a little bit because there are two things that I heard along the way that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
First is you've talked about somatic twice, healing twice. And so I'd like to dive in a little bit to more of that definition and what that looks like. And then the second thing is a little bit about the social work and some of the background of how that came about.
So for me, there's like the definition of somatic, but with the work I do, if there's a trauma that you've experienced in your life,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is conscious or unconscious, it can be housed in your body.
Yep.
It may feel like pain, it may feel like discomfort, it may show up as a diagnosis, it may show up as cancer, it could show up as anything. And so I am working with you and your body to suss out what I'm feeling or seeing or hearing. And I'm also asking you, what is coming up for you right now? Or where do you feel that X thing living in
Mm-hmm.
your body? And when we kind of, I tell people, let's just open the door to that part of your body and imagine if we peek in. What does it look like in there? What's going
Mm-hmm.
on? What does it feel like? It probably doesn't feel good. It's not a place you really want to hang out. So we have to change the landscape of that. And I guide you through how to do that. And that's how I approach somatic work. Um, I'm not doing anything like EMDR, but there are roots of like counseling work that come into this. So I rely on a little bit of my social work background to help guide people in a safe way through their trauma without re-traumatizing or traumatizing further, and just give them a platform to like springboard off of. Because if you've never looked at your trauma, or you've looked at it and you've only gotten so far, you might be seeing more than you're experienced with, and I'm there to just help you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like a traditional counseling session where you would sit and do trauma work.
It's there can be an element of talking, but mostly it is feeling and connecting with the body and listening. And most people have never just taken the time and just sit with their body. Like meditation is a practice many people try to do, and most fail because they have this idea of where the mind is going for it and getting caught in all of these thoughts. But to actually take that moment, especially with a healer as yourself, and feel for like I have a tension in my shoulder, and like putting your mind into the focus of the tension in that shoulder, actively trying to relax and like asking your body, what is it you have to tell me? And it is so cool as I have went about my journey and with the stuff that you have taught me along the way of just being able to sit there and listen to it and like feel that tension. And next thing you know, like a story comes from it. Here's an old memory. Here's a history lesson for it. Here's a thought that you've used to have. And to go and like once you re-experience that and accept it, you just feel it relax. And it's the weirdest thing.
Well, there's two things that come from what you just said, and thank you. Um, a lot of people don't feel safe in their body, so they don't spend a lot of time. There's a lot of disassociation happening, or we're just our culture, especially in America, is we have a lot to do. We're
Mm-hmm.
doing things, and we don't take the time to sit in a body that we may or may not feel safe in, and we may or may not know how to sit in our body, which is why, yes, it is a practice. It is a practice asking your body to talk to you. Your body needs to know that you trust it. So I teach people how to get their body to trust them, that you're showing your body you are listening, so that when you ask it these questions, it can tell you, and then you can make some progress. but we spend a lot of time disembodied. And so part of my work is also teaching people how to just get in their bodies and have their bodies be a safe place. Maybe not even their whole body,
Hmm.
but it's a good place to start at like one portion where you feel safe. And you can always expand as you heal, you make more space for yourself anyway.
Okay. And I have absolutely experienced that. Makes complete sense. Now, I do want to start drawing back into a little bit about the past. We've talked a little bit about what you do and how you do it, but what led you there? And within that, I think the social work is going to pop up into that based upon what I do know. But can you share a little bit about your personal healing journey and what inspired you to embark upon it?
I think it started back from my childhood. I was always more intuitive
Mhm.
and I didn't really know what to do with it. Um, and I have a traumatic past. Lots of people have trauma, you know, I'm not any
Mhm.
different. I'm not removed from that. I don't think we come to earth and don't have any trauma. That's not, we pick up things along the way.
Mhm.
And so because of that past, that is what led me to social work. My own family mostly uh, led me into wanting to become a social worker. I was a Girl Scout my entire childhood as well. So I've always been a helper, like a helping person. And I wanted to become a helping professional. So I became a social worker and I was working in medical social work and I was working in foster care. And my last my last job was in HIV and comorbidities and co-diagnoses. And there was a lot of mental health aspect related to that as well. Um, and I kind of thought, is this what I want to be doing with my life? Do I want to stay in social work? Do I want to go to grad school or well, finish grad school? Do I want to finish whatever, like nursing school? And I was just sussing things out and I injured my back.
Mhm.
Much kickboxing, you know. I was exercising a lot and moving my body a lot, and my trauma cropped up in my body, trauma that had been there my whole life, and it was in my tailbone, and it it put me out for about a year, um, where I was just in pain and struggling. And during that time, I went to get a massage, and I decided on the massage table that I wanted to be a massage therapist because I could feel the difference in my body. I could feel the trauma of releasing. I could it didn't feel like a Band-Aid. It
Mhm.
felt like real work could be done there. And I wasn't really sure what was going to come from that, but I knew I needed to become a massage therapist. So I quit my social work job and I went to massage school. And my own healing has propelled me to where I am. Like the need to heal myself has caused me to encounter other types of healers and other types of modalities and other ways to go along the winding path. And sometimes you're at this point on the path and then you're all the way back here. And then somehow you jump really far ahead. You know, you just have to kind of go with it. But um, I think digging into my own stuff and unpacking it and looking at it and holding it and then saying, no, I can't do this, and then coming back to it. And just over the course of 14 years has led me to where I am now.
You have went through the whole gambit of process. Uh, I within you, like even in the short time that I have seen you, this you have continued that healing journey. And as many of people who have been hurt, there is an importance of being able to find a purpose and a meaning within it. Because hurt without a purpose and a meaning is just pain and it can eat people alive.
Mhm.
Often we find and we hear many stories that the people who hurt the most have the greatest desire to say, I have been hurt and I want to make sure no one else experiences this again. Or I want to help people, and I think in your case, to help relieve them of that suffering. I have found my way through it and will help you too.
100%. I love that. For me, it's actually both. I don't want others to experience the things I've had to experience. And I think a lot of people who have been hurt feel that way. But I also want to be the Sherpa who's I'm there with the lantern and we're in the dark and I'm with you and we're going and these are the tools that I have available and these are the tools that I'm aware of and even if it's not me that you're healing with, like let me help you get connected to someone possibly, like let me turn that spark, like let me spark you alive, awake so that you want to explore your own healing. I might not be the perfect cup of tea for you, but I know that the world is a big place and that there are people who can help you. So let's get you motivated to do that, to be curious about all of the things that aren't so great. And
Hmm.
so you can turn it around. And it takes a lot of resilience. I'm here because I am very resilient.
Yes, to actively work to overcome all that and to not be stuck is a intense process to say the least.
I mean, you know me to be an intense person, but
You are an intense person. I believe for your last birthday where I was at, many were welcoming you to have patience and calm. Because the intensity is that high.
I think of like 8 people wished me calm for my next decade.
Mhm.
Peace and calm. And I like after a while, I was like, am I real? Oh, was it really that bad? Like, not that it's bad, but life has definitely been a lot of curveballs and a lot of fastballs. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
well, I just settled into not having a 5-year plan or
Mhm.
a 1-year plan. And sometimes you just have to be like, well, this is what we're doing now.
Yep.
And just you have to dig really, really deep and find a way. And sometimes there are people along the way that help you.
Hmm.
A lot of it was without help, until more recently in my life. I've got a beautiful community. You are part of my community. And that community and that love is what I want to share with people so that they don't have to feel alone and stuck and in their diagnosis or diagnoses and feeling like there's nothing at the end of the tunnel. Like you didn't come all this way to come to Earth just to be stuck.
And you do a very good job of helping people get unstuck.
Thank you.
So I'd like to dive a little bit more into some of your journey because yes, you help people, but let's talk about you a little bit into this. Can you give me a little bit of some of the pivotal moments and experiences of your healing journey and how you began to overcome them? So like what are some of the highlights? You don't have to get into any details you don't feel comfortable with, but what are some of those unique lessons?
When I had my back injury and I couldn't walk, I had, crushed L4, L5 in my back. Like lower lumbar spine disc problems, overcoming that physically and mentally, and still having to go to work while you're in pain because
Mm-hmm.
you need to work. Like I was in school with this problem. So massage school actually really helped like fix things, but you're just in pain and you're just continuing to go through everything. And I think my resilience helped me there, but it was also just oh my God, like what is the lesson here? Why am I experiencing all of this?
Mm-hmm.
Because the lesson at that point was you have got to start digging into what you have packed away for 27 years at that point. So um and when you start to open up and think about like, well, what's in there? Pain isn't this, there has to be a reason this is happening. It was a huge lesson in just understanding what trauma is and what it can do to the body and why and how to start navigating that. And then in massage school, I gained a lot of lessons in energy work and spirituality and healing. And then I brought that forward into my massage career. And there was a pivotal moment where I was seeing a shaman for a while as a healer.
Okay.
They, because everything, I kept hitting roadblocks. I'd have like a month or two that were solid, everything's on the up and up, and then I'd get hit with something major, physically, financially, and this kept going like a roller coaster, kind of like you're in the light, you're in the dark, you're in the light, you're in the dark. And that was happening for 2 or 3 years. And I just decided this is way too much chaos for me. I don't enjoy any of this. I'm not getting anywhere. Like, what do I need to do? And so I was working at a place in Washington, D.C., and we had a shaman there, and they are amazing. And they kind of set me on my path to, you are a spiritual being. You need this in your life for the work you're going to be doing. This is not something that you can step away from and expect life to be peaches and cream for you, because you're going to be drawing on all of this energy and all of this support, and you need to be able to make these connections for other people. And so that was a huge positive turn in my healing and learning about spirituality itself. Like, I hadn't really had a practice until then. So I had my own stuff, but what did I want to learn from and what did I want to draw from? And then there were a couple times in my own healing journey, like physically, a lot of things came up, and I was like, oh man, how am I going to handle this? And being able to fall back on my spiritual beliefs and my community that I had built was really pivotal. For the first time, I didn't feel alone, and
Mhm.
I felt like I could have answers that were outside of me. And when you spend so much time solo or just trying to help yourself, asking other people for help and being vulnerable is so scary and
Mhm.
weird. It's weird at first because, and I say it's weird because it's not something that we, if unless you're versed in that, you're like, it's like riding a bike without training wheels. You're like, what is this? And so the lesson in vulnerability was like a beautiful, hard lesson at the same
Mhm.
time. Um, and now teaching other people to be vulnerable is a beautiful, hard lesson too. Um, and so I feel like physically overcoming diagnoses or illnesses, financially just not understanding like where did this come from? What is this thing? And it, just when you're not doing the things you should be doing, life has a way of throwing big boulders at you to get you where you should be. And as
Mhm.
I've progressed in my healing and helping other people, life has completely turned around. And I'm not saying I'm out of the woods. You're never out of the woods. Healing is a journey, but the journey has become so much more interesting and cool and light.
Mhm.
And there's less eh, I'm not looking at boulders as much anymore as I am
Mhm.
looking at, like, well, the road that we just took a little side path. It's like a side journey,
Mhm.
rather than I have to climb over this boulder and then go into this cavern and feel like I'm alone again.
You've learned how to flow through the processes versus having to fight your way through everything. You've done so much of that deep work that makes everything else easier. You laid the foundation.
Yeah.
And that the first part of it sucks. Like even as I went through my own stuff, the
Oh,
first part of it, you're like, okay, I feel like I'm doing fine. These things aren't great. And then you look behind that curtain and you can't stop looking after that. You're like, well, I guess this is where I am now. I don't want to have to deal with all of it, but I have no choice now.
things are on fire behind the curtain. You don't know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
There's another planet back there. I thought when I was working with the shaman in the beginning, okay, spiritual journey. I'm going to tackle some things. It's going to be great. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be fun. The shaman is like, no, this is going to be very hard. It's going to be one of the hardest things you've ever done. And I've done hard things. So, um, as you do when you're surviving. So it really is the hardest thing I've done. And I'm still doing 14 years later, because once you start, you're going to heal forever. But you're going to I think of it as leveling up. You're just going to keep going and getting
Mm-hmm.
better.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you feel like you're all the way back down here, it's for a reason, because you need more. You need to like rebuild some of that foundation. You need to get stronger so that you can go even further.
Mhm. I agree. As I have had to go through my stuff, that the act of rebuilding the foundation, from realizing it wasn't done right, and actually having to do that deep digging, sucks, because it's just a slog. You don't feel like you're going anywhere. You don't see the sunshine for a while, and then once you finally get above, you're like, oh, this is great. And then you look up and you're like, I still have to build the building one floor at a time. Why?
One brick at a time. Let's just
One brick at a time.
sometimes you've
Yes.
got one brick down, you're like, that's
Yeah.
all I'm doing today.
That'd be nice if I could just drop a floor and like, boom, all right, I can take a nap. No, no. So you've talked a little bit about some of the professional help you've sought. You've had a shaman that you've talked to. You've had teachers of massage. You've had all sorts of things. I know there's a particular acupuncturist that aligns with you very well. What are some of the other, you are a person who heals, but within that, you have had to heal yourself. What are some of the things that you have found most beneficial, or the people that you have found most beneficial outside of what you've already talked about, to aid in that journey or to help align you to where you are now?
There are so many people I would just love to hug again, or just send gratitude and love to. But I think at different points, you're going to find people and resources that are what you need at that time. So when I was healing um, physical trauma, especially like sexual trauma,
Mm.
um, I found yoni steaming to be very helpful. It's herbal steam, and
Mm-hmm.
you basically sit over the steam, and you
Mm-hmm.
just allow it to like fill your vessel and cleanse and calm and soothe. Energetically, it was really beautiful and really easy, and it was really comforting to be with other women. I did this in a room
Mm.
with other yoni owners, and not just women yoni owners, and to like be there kind of covered up and just cozy, and just in the presence of women was, and other yoni owners, not just women, in the presence of people that were all there for the same reason, to heal, was a beautiful transformative moment. And when you're in it with other people, I have a friend that came from that experience, and she's just such a fun, wonderful, strong person. And we laugh. We're like, we met because we were yoni steaming. Like, how, huh?
Just sitting,
Like,
just
we
sitting
know
around,
people
got some
who
smoke
were
coming up, whatever, everywhere.
sitting around steaming yonis and appreciating the power that bodies the power and resilience that bodies have and can carry, and the resilience of yonis themselves, and just really leaning into that. I had never really supported, like, I identify as a woman, and I had never really given myself that joy, and that, like, heck yeah, you're
Mm-hmm.
amazing, like, you're strong. And I just never really identified fully as a woman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I really did find that process and that part of healing to be incredible. Just physically, spiritually, emotionally. And then of course, our wonderful acupuncturist. Um Other healers, other modalities, other things. I did actually more recently, and this is kind of where you were a big part of my healing more recently. I looked at my trauma, and I decided around a very recent big birthday that I didn't want to carry it anymore, and I didn't want to deal with the side effects of what was happening in my body, and just mentally and emotionally. I didn't want to have to continue to carry that forward in my life. And
Yep.
so I thought, all right, how do I go about like navigating this? And I did some reading about some psilocybin and the effects of psilocybin with PTSD. And I was like, let's do it,
Mhm.
because I also do think when you do a deep dive and you spend the time, it could take 14 years, it could take 2 years.
Mhm.
There's no real time frame on any of this. You just have to keep going. So I think after you've done so much work, you still have work to do, but
Mhm.
things come up to clear as they're ready to. And it was time. It was time to dig into this.
You're like,
So
I have had enough. This weight is too heavy. I want to set it down.
yeah, and I also have the capacity to take the time to look at it and hold it and understand it and pull it apart and love it and whatever I need to do with it. I have that ability now, whereas before I might not have been able to handle what I was seeing or what I
Mhm.
was feeling or what was coming up, and it might not have all come up the way it did,
Mhm.
because I'm at a place where I am ready for whatever comes forward. And I also understood that whatever comes forward, I'm going to be looking at and experiencing, and what is the lesson behind it.
Mhm.
And so that's when I reached out to you and I was like, hey, I need you to also support me in some healing,
Mhm.
um, really big healing.
You had quite quite the set of experiences with the mushrooms of release, to say the least.
Remember how we said I might be an intense person and I just kind of kicked the door in and looked right at my
Yeah,
trauma?
yeah. Oh, you definitely did that. Uh, if you want, I can talk upon that. If you'd like to keep that private, that's fine. Uh,
I think it's important. And I mean, I tell people when they want to walk down that path that,
mhm.
just like I tell them, hey, if we're doing somatic work, you might experience XYZ. I tell them the
Mhm.
same thing with psilocybin and other
Mhm.
um, substances that they may be using. Um, they were very different experiences, but the lesson in them, like I could see the lesson afterward when all was said and done. I learned a lot and I cleared so much from my body that, again, it feels like a clean slate. Like I can't even be upset about it anymore. I think about it, I'm like, oh well, yeah, that trauma happened, but I have
Yeah,
no feeling
it
about
does
it
not have the
anymore.
energy. So, what are some of the things? And I'll happily talk a little bit about the experience of me having to watch that in the external and the delight I will say that was. But
You
you talked a little bit about some of the things that you learned from that. What are some of those highlights? I know a few, but I want to hear that from your words.
Yeah. I mean, you as my trip sitter, I I felt very safe, and that's why I approached you, and I do have a very close relationship with you and I do trust you. So I think that those things are important.
Mhm.
Anyway, I needed to be with someone who knew what they were doing, who could help me navigate things physically safely, emotionally safely, spiritually safely. And if it became too much, you knew who to call or what to do
Mhm.
and what resources to draw upon. So I had the freedom to just let loose in a way I have never, ever in my life let loose. And if you haven't let loose in 40 years,
Mhm.
there's a lot in there that needs to come out
Yes.
and that wants to come out. And it comes out in various ways. But I think the first time with you was the most intense one. When we just kicked the door in.
Mhm.
I did find my inner child to be kind of confused and just still very observant, checking some stuff out, but also I invited her to party because there was essentially a rave happening at the same time. I was
Mhm.
talking to my inner child and I was like, but we're having this party, just come on, and I just kind of gave her a hug and I was like, look at how rad you've grown up to become. And that
Mhm.
was the first time that I even thought, man, I've really become a cool person.
Mhm.
I've
Yeah,
done.
no, you have you've You do so much. You've got the hair to match a cool person. You've lived a really interesting life. Yeah, she deserves to be proud of you, and you deserve to be proud of that and connect with her.
I really remember being like, I've become so cool. And it was like mind blowing to me that I had no idea. Um, and I was really grateful that I could show her that, because little me was just having a hard time fitting in and figuring out my place, and like what was I going to do, and just even figuring out other people. So that was a huge moment I got to spend with my inner child, and just having a really good time, having fun. I I had a lot of fun.
You had an absolute blast.
So
Uh,
I laughed so much for the first time in a really long time. And the joy, the pure joy that I felt in my heart and like in my spirit, it was just chef's kiss. Um, and then at the end, I mean, I did get to talk to God a little bit, and that was amazing. It really
mhm.
actually made me not fear death,
Mm.
because God basically was like, "You don't need to be afraid of dying. This is what's going to happen. You're just, this is your path." And I got some hits on what my future healing for people and myself is going to look like, and it is beautiful. And the love that I could feel was so pure, and just there was no judgment. And so I feel like, even as a healer, other healers place judgment upon people and situations, and, well, I'm a better healer for you because of this, and those people over there don't know what they're talking about. You want to heal with me? And I'm just like, why is there all this judgment? I'm just here to help people. If you align with me, cool, let's go. And if not, like, let's find other people who will help you. So that judgment free love, like, beautiful love cocoon that happened at the end was really pivotal and beautiful. Um and the amount of trauma that I released and the amount of joy that I released, I just felt like I had done years of therapy in one session. Like,
I,
really helpful,
mhm.
moving, just cleared it all out. I took the whole closet and I was like, I don't need any of this. And we just, thank you, goodbye. And it was amazing. And you were there just
Mhm.
supporting me through all of the things I was doing and saying,
I
feeling.
I am so glad I have brought headphones for your experience because let me tell you about your experience with this. So first, you do not judge anyone else's healing process as long as they are being kind with themselves, not judging others who are doing good. People heal in their own unique way. Laura's process is one of the more unique that I have had the pleasure of experiencing. It was about 5 hours of alternating between laughing, crying, and screaming in a 30-second cycle for 5 hours straight. It would be from just so happy, like I feel so loved, to fuck that guy in particular that did the pain to me, to I don't know why I'm even laughing. It's a delight, and there's rainbows everywhere.
There's so many rainbows.
So many rainbows.
I mean, I was
And
screaming in rainbows. I was angry in rainbows. And then I couldn't even be mad because my anger was rainbows. And I was like, well, I'm just okay. We're just gonna let this go and be
just
beautiful.
everything is just rainbows right now. And your neighbors is probably still scared of you because I'm glad the cops didn't get called on us for that.
I mean, I screamed pretty loud apparently, but I think there was just a lot of just rage and anger that needed to come out from little me and from just even adult me. And it just came out, and it felt great. And also, there were times it just felt like I couldn't control it. It just needed to happen. But then I was like, oh wait, we're having a good time. I went back to having a good time. Um, but I've never had a release or a way to release anything I had been feeling for most of my life. in such a way that was so profound and so moving. And yeah, I'm glad the cops didn't get called, but I'm in my own home with a
Yep.
safe person. I can do whatever I want. So,
Yep.
and we did. Uh, and so, um, just if you have neighbors, those of you out there who have neighbors, just maybe like scream into a pillow if you're going to have a release. But I was at a point where I was not even thinking about where I was screaming. I was just going for it. So that's why I had Rob to help me get to a safe place of being seated or laying down and emoting that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly why he was there.
Yep. Yeah, you need for when it comes to some of these, especially for people's first experiences when diving into what is frankly psychological and spiritual brain surgery. It is an intense process. You do not know how you are going to react. And to have someone there to keep you calm, keep you relaxed, give you water when you need to, or throw literally every single blanket on in the house upon you because you're too cold while you're sweating and nonstop wiggling and moving because that's just how it works sometimes.
I mean,
Like 12
I'm a
blankets,
special
ma'am.
case when it
Like
comes to
12.
using substances.
Oh.
I had to feel like the warmth and the weight on me, but I was freezing and then I was just sweating out so much. I moved so much energy. I mean, I move a lot of energy anyway, but yeah, I mean, and for the first time, and we also realized that I don't like the funhouse aspect of psilocybin. I have plenty of things going on in my life that I see on a regular basis, that I'm hearing, that I'm feeling, that I'm experiencing. I don't need any more funhouse happening. So when and if that does happen from me using psilocybin, I'm like, Rob, we're in the funhouse, buddy. I don't want to be here. This is not useful to me. I don't need to be seeing all
Mhm.
of these patterns and whatnot. I need to get to the point of like why I'm doing this, and I need to get to a healing place. And Rob's like, okay, how about we just lay down? And he helps me redirect and really move through a lot of deep pain and emotion and processing for our families. I'm sure, you've processed for your family too. You've processed the pain and trauma of your lineage. When you're processing your lineage and you're moving things for your entire family line or those that are coming to you, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Like I had with just that experience, a different level of anger as who I am as a man before that experience versus after. It took just by doing that so much of the heat I used to have of like this anger contained within the line that I have seen through all of the men in my family. And on the other side of it, it's just puff. It's just not there to the same degree. It's not to say I still don't feel it or I don't experience it, but it's not accessible or volatile to the same degree. And it can just happen from like a single experience like that. And that's not to say that these types of substances can't do damage and you have to be cautious with them, but applied properly with the right safety precautions and in the right state, as you talked earlier about feeling safe, being in a safe place in your life to be able to look behind that curtain and see what happens. When you stack the odds in your favor, things go a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't have to worry about medication side effects and other things like that. And being okay with like sitting there and really mulling over what could happen. Am I going to how might I feel after this? Am I going to have support if I don't feel okay? Or, like I don't know what's going to happen as through this journey. What can I do in case my brain goes sideways a little bit and it takes me a while to recover from this. So even I did take stock in all of that, but I also thought, you know, I don't have a lot of these things to worry about. I have done a lot of deep work. I have a lot of good support. I'm at a place where I feel that it's time to really just take the whole curtain down. Just take it down. Here we are.
Hmm.
This is
Hmm.
what we're looking at. And like I said, we took that whole closet and emptied it out, and just even when you try to think about the trauma that was in there and the pain you used to feel, you can't even remember how you used to feel because it's just not there.
Hmm.
You remember feeling upset, but you can't really grasp that feeling anymore because it's changed and it's lighter and it's really beautiful. So, and I'm not saying there still isn't pain or whatever inside. There's, life, right?
Yep.
We're living, but it's never it's never as bad as it was. And I can't I can't feel the same as I felt,
Yep.
especially when it comes to things related to my family, like my mom and her lineage. Um, the second journey that you and I did together was very spiritually important as well, from a lineage and from like a lineage healing standpoint. And just putting an end to all of the trauma that came through the lineage, and like literally being the game changer here. Like I came here to be the end of this. And
Hmm.
like I know that for myself, but seeing it and experiencing it and doing it, I was like, okay, cool. We're just going to put a stop to this whole trauma in the lineage and whatever might be happening here. And then when you do it, you're like on top of the world. And
Hmm.
it took a lot to get there. It took a long, long, long time to get there. Um, this is like, again, healing could take so many years, but we're really not doing. We're here to heal. We're here to learn and grow on a soul level. So, like, may as well get started. You've got
Yep.
really nothing better to be doing.
It's the quest of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And one of the important things I've come to recognize that with that is, just as if you read a book, you can draw upon someone else's entire life experience and get from what took them a lifetime to what might take you a quarter of that. And just as someone having a healer or someone else who has these experiences and being able to work with them allows you to draw upon that lifetime of experience and understanding and knowledge and be like, yep, I've been there. Here's exactly what you need to do, or here's how I've seen it, or as you've said, you refer people to, this seems like it's going to align better with you, and you can just cut that time down so quickly. And it's not to say that healing slower or faster is better, but there is a certain advantage of, I'm tired of this. Let's be done with it and let's go on.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you've told me, because you've simply had a lot more experiences with, even with psilocybin. You've told me that your brain has just shown you things and you're like, what? Why? Okay. And there is probably a lesson there. And sometimes it's just weird. And
Yep.
maybe you're crawling around the floor like a puma. I don't know.
Yep. Been there, done that.
Yeah. And so sometimes you're just like, well, maybe today wasn't a heavy work day. Maybe today we're just a puma.
Yep. I one of the first deepest time I ended up going in, which was a heroic dose. I was anticipating, like, we are gonna dive in and this is gonna be hardcore and we're gonna go at it. No, it was not. It was a complete celebratory party in my head. There was no super deep work done. It was the walls were melting in color and you just felt elated and everything else. It was fantastic. And and I had like 20 minutes before anything actually happened was just this thought that, hold on, cat's on the keyboard, buddy. Why? Um, this is going to be a night of celebration. I'm like, that's not what I came here for, but I guess this is what I need, and just to accept it.
Yeah. And I have, even when I'm working with other people, there's this expectation. And I'm like, that might not happen. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to ask for that to happen. We're going to try to ask your guides. But that may not be what you need. You may need to be over here looking at this thing
Mm-hmm.
in order to clear that and work with that and love that, to make space for this thing that you'd like to get to. But you aren't really ready for this thing here. You need this support. and your foundation was washed away, so we have to rebuild. So I anticipate, I would like to go in and do deep work, but maybe it is a party. I would really love that. But
Yep. And you get the experience that you need at the time.
yeah,
And we as humans will often put little problems in the way of the big things because the little problems we feel like we can solve and focus on. So we don't have to look at these really big things. And until you start doing these dives and doing this work, you don't realize it's not this. It's like in the body, there's referral pain of, my shoulder hurts. May not be your shoulder hurting, might be your neck that's actually the problem. And that's just creating a kink in the chain. So you're like, oh, I'm just not doing well in school. No, you're not doing well in school because you had these friends that really hurt you back in the day. And there is just this connection that you do not see.
yeah. And sometimes that connection lives in your foot and it's affecting your neck. And
Mm-hmm.
here we are.
Yep. So this fantastic, but I also want to bring this back to people who don't have as much of a healing journey, who are just getting started. What is some of the advice and encouragement you could offer for someone at the beginning of their journey, or if advice for intermediate, or those who haven't even begun to start or just want to find out how to start?
I think healing, you have to find what works for you. And this is what I tell my clients, this is what I tell my friends. An example, I love my acupuncturist. I love acupuncture. That might not work for you, but possibly body work might work for you, or talk therapy might work for you. You have to find the things and build your toolbox. Your toolbox is going to look completely different than somebody else's. So try something, really give it the good old college try, like really go for it. And if it's not aligning with you, try to find something else that aligns with you. And the more you look at what is coming up for you, the more you can say, oh, well, this therapist talks about this. Maybe I'll try that modality. And then I'll go ride my bike or something that makes me happy and like move my body. And then I'm going to sit with this for a while. And oh, I'm going to talk to my friend about it. And maybe my friend knows somebody. And just trying to be a little more vulnerable with yourself and with other people. And again, we all need to stop judging each other. Just trying to help. We're all just trying to live. So I think opening up your own self and your own vulnerability and just being curious and seeing what works. It's like trying a new recipe. It
Mm-hmm.
might not work out, but you're going to try it. And you might be like, that was awesome. I'm going to cook this all the time. Or I'm going to cook this for 5 years and then I'm never going to cook it again. But you do have to be very curious. And there is, I don't have answers to say like, oh yeah, you should just go to acupuncture and try Tai Chi or Muay Thai, and then you're gonna have all the answers. But I can make suggestions to you based upon what is coming up, and that's how I help my clients. I'm like, well, how does this align with you? Does moving your body in this way feel good? When you do this, what feels good to you? How do you experience joy? So a lot of it is curiosity. And then for those who have been doing deep dives and you're still feeling kind of stuck, I think that's when we have to get into your lineage and see like what is stuck in your family line. I know for you, Rob, you had a huge breakthrough when we started doing work with your lineage and healing your family lines and healing your like those who came before you so that they could also support you. And you know we heal them, they heal us, we move toward the future to heal others. So I feel if you haven't done any lineage work or healing work for your family line, that's really important work to start doing and to start getting support around. Dr. Daniel Foor, Foor, is a wonderful resource. He has books and seminars and um, a YouTube about ancestral healing, and it's very easy to digest and it's very easy to start.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a support system and a support network around it so that you're not just sitting there wondering what to do. And if for those who are interested in taking a healing route with psilocybin, for example, understand that there are risks. There are risks associated with everything. Understand that there are rewards and that your journey is, you're going to get what you're going to get at that time, like Rob has said. And maybe just try to be a little open-minded. Like, yes, I went in with a goal. I went in with a few goals. And
Mhm.
my goals were achieved, but that's not always the case. And you just kind of have to also be okay with that.
Mhm.
And find someone who you trust, who is safe, preferably who has experience with this, who knows the medicine. I trust Rob because I know that he knows his medicine. And by medicine, I mean psilocybin and mushrooms. So I wanted to experience this with someone that I trusted, where I felt safe in my home, where the practitioner knew their medicine, um, and had their energy like imbibed in that medicine. I think that's really important. And finding a community of support is also, no matter where you are in your healing journey, just trying to find others who have experienced maybe the same type of trauma that you have, and like what have they done and where have they gone and where are they going, even, and just again a support system of your friends as well. It takes some vulnerability to talk about these things, and like once you pull the band-aid off and you're sitting there bleeding, essentially your friends hopefully, or your community, can support you so that you don't have to be alone in any of this.
It's so hard to move forward when you're just alone. It is one of the leading things of depression and being stuck in life. And it has been one of the hardest things for me to learn. I very much grew up in an island in my childhood, and while I had friends to a degree, I was homeschooled, basically house of one in this case, and it has taken me a long time to be able to connect with people and have community and learn that openness and vulnerability that is required to get to that next level. But now that I've done it, I'm able to not only help other people with that, but once you have been able to say heal in your friend group, you can start talking about these things. And then you can become the resource and the leader to be able to pass this on. And that is how you make these waves of change throughout history. Human beings, for the absolute most part, are fantastic. That is why we are here today. But we just have all this stuff that gets in the way, and we just get stuck inside ourselves. But being able to be compassionate to people, being able to be understanding, being able to take a moment and pause before you speak. Once you learn how to do that within yourself, it becomes much easier to pass that type of love on. So I want to go and make sure we talk a little bit about your work, your practices, and give you the proper shout out for it. One of the things I am loving with what you're doing now, I believe you are focusing primarily on the feminine energy as your clients. And given when you were talking about the yoni, I believe it, and that what I feel like is an originator of points to be able to have that, how is that working now? Talk a little bit about your business and give us the information for it, and where do people learn more about you?
Thank you. Yes, my current work is with women's health and wellness and women identified individuals. Um, I do love to dance with the feminine energy and bring that forth in healing and compassion and love in people, so that we're not just doing all the time. And that comes through with the body work and the somatic work that we're doing, and energy work, and the prenatal and postpartum work that
Mm.
I do. I do a lot of work with prenatal and postpartum people, and helping them along that journey, and helping them and educating them and supporting them and cradling them and loving them. So I think that well, people can find out more about me on my .com. It's powerfulhealingarts.com. And there's an FAQ section and they can reach out to me. And if I haven't, my bio is on the front page. But my work with energy and somatics and things like that isn't at the forefront right now. And I'm going to be bringing it to the forefront. I've just been very busy running my business.
Mm-hmm.
So if people have more questions, they can just directly contact me there. I'm located in Alexandria, Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. And I'm also housed with a wonderful chiropractor. So I think that, again, mind body connection is important. So um, there are times where I will refer to him as well and say, hey, because he is also a really wonderful healer. And then my community spreads out from there.
So I'm going to start doing our wrap ups for it. And so there's one final question that I have for you, and then I want you to think of a question for the next guest, and so we can continue on the little cycle. So the question that I have for you is, what would you have done different on this path? Of like all the lessons, not talking of regret, but talking of, you know, this I may not have thought of it beforehand, or I said no to it at then, and like that would have been the right way to go. What would you have done different along the way?
Well, our intuitives and our spiritual teachers tell us that, you know, there is no like right or wrong way to be on the path. You're just on the path.
Mm-hmm.
But I would definitely trust myself so much earlier in life and really give myself more props and not not talk myself out of things. You know,
That's a big one.
I would just I'd be like, "Let's go. What are you afraid of?" You know, like there was plenty of fear that had already existed. We didn't need to continue that. So I would have just given myself more props and that is what I would do differently. For sure. Way early. If I could go back and tell little me how cool she would be, I'd be like, just trust yourself and go for it, girl. Like, go. And I mean, I have gone back and told her that. We're still trying to
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah,
bring her
you're still
along.
connecting, as you've said. It's a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
So, what question would you want the next person to answer?
So my in like my human body, being impatient is not a superpower, but spiritually and energetically, it's a huge superpower for me. Um, what shows up in your life that you feel is not helpful to you, but when applied properly is incredibly helpful to you?
Got it. What is that obstacle that is actually the thing that helps you out so much? Okay, I love it. This has been an absolute delight. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
and I wish you the very best in this.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you.